Yo, what is up, everybody? It's the Great. Welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got a video that I am personally extremely excited for, folks. It is by the great Swagkage, and it is How Strong is Itachi? Now, the reason that I am so excited for this video is for you guys that already know, Itachi is my very favorite character in Naruto and maybe in all of anime, arguably. Itachi is the god of deception, arguably the best genjutsu user ever. Doesn't mean he's the strongest, but it means he's the best at genjutsu, in my opinion. And he's just a cool dude, man. I mean, he has a way about him that not many anime characters in all anime have. And I think many of you can agree with that. So I'm interested to see what Swag says as far as how strong Itachi is. Now, I'm not an Itachi tard. I'm not going to say he's above Kage and stuff like that. He's just my favorite character. You know, it's personal preference when I say Itachi's my favorite character. But before we begin, I really really appreciate it. Hit that like button, turn on bell notifications to stay up with yours truly. And if you are new and you enjoy, and this is your first time watching the kid, hit that sub button, man, because once you do, you become part of the family forever. Let's not waste any more time. Screen. See what Swag has to say today.
So I've been making a bunch of videos recently examining the strength of various Naruto characters, and I figured it'd be fun to make a new video about somebody who's way more popular and also way more powerful than anyone I've spoken about so far. Today we're taking a look at Itachi Uchiha, and I know everybody knows he's supposed to be like really strong, but I think where everyone struggles to agree is on exactly how strong.
Correct, that's definitely true.
Think Itachi could beat Madara. I've spoken to others who think he'd struggle to fight Jiraiya, and there are a whole bunch of opinions spread throughout in between. I of course have my own opinion, and to back it up,
by the way, he wouldn't be Madara, just saying.
Of different sources, including the fights Itachi participates in, statements about him throughout the series, flashback scenes where he does anything noteworthy, and the 2 light novels covering the events of his life before he deserts the Leaf Village. I think I'm going to start with the light novels because I know a lot of you haven't read them, and they do give you quite a bit of insight into how talented Itachi is and the sort of crazy stuff he's been capable of even since his early childhood. I want to focus specifically on the first of the 2 books because you learn a lot more about what Itachi can do in it than you do in the second one. Not to say that you don't get to see Itachi in action in the Book of Midnight, but it covers Itachi's time in the Anbu and the assassination of the Uchiha clan, which we already sort of know about, whereas the Book of Daylight covers Itachi's early childhood. We get to see him enroll in the academy, start life as a genin, take the Chunin exams, and other things you may expect from a kid in the Naruto world. Now, for those of you who haven't read the light novels yet, prepare to have your fucking socks knocked off, because Itachi's no joke, even as a little kid.
Definitely not.
One example of some of the ridiculous things that he has done can be seen on page 28 when the Nine Tails is attacking Konoha. Itachi's with his mother Mikoto and his younger brother Sasuke, who was an infant at the time. Everybody's just sitting around all scared, not sure what to do because they're worried the Nine Tails is gonna eat everyone, when all of a sudden a big chunk of debris falls out of the sky and threatens to crush Mikoto and Sasuke. Without a moment's hesitation, Itachi jumps into the air and breaks the debris apart with his bare fist. The way the book describes it, it sounds like he's amping his strength with chakra control, the same way that Sakura and Tsunade do. Obviously not to the same extent, but still, the fact that he's able to do this at all at 5 years old, before even
ridiculous.
In the Ninja Academy,
that's just
is
bonkers.
crazy. I find this particularly interesting because we don't really see a lot of people, especially not genin, double especially not academy students, and triple especially people who haven't even enrolled in the academy yet, make use of the ability to use chakra to reinforce their strikes. 2 of the only people we ever really see do it at all are Sakura and Tsunade, and you can argue that towards the end of the series, everyone is using chakra to make their attacks more powerful. But as it's described in the book, Itachi is doing specifically what Sakura and Tsunade do, and that's explained to require really precise chakra control. Now, I don't want to give him more credit than he deserves, so that might not be exactly what he's doing, and even if it is, it might not be nearly as impressive as I think it is, but I did want to mention it just because of how much it's
to be 5 years old and break a goddamn boulder,
it's
impressive, either way.
In front of her. In the exact words of the book, unable to conceal her surprise, his mother stared at Itachi with saucer-like eyes. His mother was a jonin, which was precisely why she was amazed at his instantaneous action. I think the implication here is supposed to be that she's stunned by the fact that even though she was a jonin, she wasn't able to do anything, whereas her 5-year-old son, who completely lacked ninja training, was able to deal with the situation without trouble at all. Now, to be fair, she had her back turned to the debris when it started falling towards her, but I think that's a much less severe handicap than being 5 years old and lacking ninja training. Moving on page 38, we learn that a 6-year-old Itachi, on his first day at the academy, blows everybody away with his performance in a training exercise held as a part of class that day. So the exercise has the the students run around the schoolyard and see how quickly they can throw kunai at the 20 targets scattered throughout it. It takes most of the students about 5 minutes to do this, but Itachi pulls it off in 30 seconds. What makes that even better is Itachi got really mad at himself after completing the course because he thought he could have done way better. Like, as soon as the person scheduled to go after him begins the course, he takes another look at it and he goes, "Ah, man, I could have shaved 5 seconds off my time. I suck." And when he already clearly outperformed everybody else, the fact that he expected himself to do better is ridiculous, and it also means he probably could have. Even his teacher, after watching this happen, is so
I think even at that age, he's very aware of his capabilities. He's very aware of what he's capable of.
Continued to happen during Itachi's enrollment at the academy, because on page 45 we learn that just 4 months after he began classes there, Itachi was given the graduation exam. Surprise, surprise, he passes it and he's allowed to graduate the following year. Later in the book, after Itachi becomes a genin, during an encounter with Obito on page 81, we see him resist the effects of Obito's genjutsu. Now this is only important because with him were 2 members of the Guardian Shinobi 12, a Jonin, and 2 genin, one of whom was a genjutsu specialist. The Guardian Shinobi 12, the Jonin, and one of the genin are all caught in this genjutsu, and the only people who are able to resist its effects are Itachi and his genjutsu specialist teammate. And for those of you who are prepared to say, "Oh man, that's not a surprise, Itachi's always been really good at genjutsu," at this point in the book, it's not really implied that Itachi can use genjutsu that well. As a matter of fact,
he's just a kid, right?
Happened, Itachi hadn't even awakened the Sharingan yet. It's actually the death of his teammate that happens during this fight that prompts Itachi's Sharingan to manifest for the first time. The only reason I'm clarifying is because that means an 8-year-old Itachi, without the aid of the Sharingan, was able to resist the effects of a genjutsu that caught 2 of the Guardian Shinobi 12 and a Jonin. No matter how you slice it, I think that sounds pretty impressive, but maybe that's just me. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is, without question, the most ridiculous thing that he accomplishes in the entire book. So the book informs us that Itachi continues to do really, really well in missions and is basically backpacking his team, but despite that, his Jonin just keeps refusing to recommend him for the Chunin exams. The reason appears to be that he's confident in Itachi's abilities, but not in the abilities of his 2 teammates. So to circumvent this, Danzo, yes, as in the leader of Root and the Foundation, Danzo, personally requests that the then 9-year-old Itachi be allowed to take the Chunin exams by himself. Itachi's father, Fugaku, agrees with the suggestion, so Itachi goes on
they all know. He's a monster.
Gets the 2nd highest score of all time, next only to Minato's, before setting a record for the time taken to get to the tower in the center of the Forest of Death with both a Heaven and Earth scroll in his possession. Now, the interesting thing about this, of course, is that the previous record had been set by a team of 3 people, and all of Itachi's enemies in the Forest of Death were working as part of 3-man teams. Yet Itachi entered the Chunin exams by himself at 9 years old and still set this record anyway. As you'd expect, this of course means that he had to fight a team of 3 people, beat them, and take their scroll, which is exactly what he did. On his way to the tower, he gets jumped by a team of 3 Mist Ninja and deals with them absolutely no problem. Then after clearing the Forest of Death, Itachi performs so well in the first round of the Chunin exam tournament that he's allowed to skip the rest of the bracket and is immediately promoted to Chunin. It goes without saying that this is really dumb.
That's fair.
Sounds like I'm fucking making it up, but I promise you this is actually what happens in the book. Itachi's just ridiculous, and what makes this even better is the book says that only 5 months after his promotion to Chunin, due to his incredible performance during his time as a Chunin, he was then promoted again to a member of the Anbu Black Ops. Some other notable things that Itachi accomplishes before his debut in Part 1 include being handpicked for the extermination of the Uchiha clan, overpowering Orochimaru when the latter tries to steal his body, and basically toying with Deidara while recruiting him to join the Akatsuki. He does all of this during his early to mid-teens at the latest, since when he leaves the Leaf Village to join the Akatsuki, he's only 13 years old. Another thing
he was very young.
That both Orochimaru and Deidara were either shown or stated to be Kage level at some point. Orochimaru was a candidate to become the 4th Hokage and later went on to kill the 3rd Hokage.
Correct.
And Deidara successfully defeated and captured the 5th Kazekage Gaara. Of course, Deidara was probably way stronger when he fought Gaara than when he fought Itachi, but Orochimaru had been nominated to become Hokage long before he lost to Itachi. Now, I think that covers all of his off-screen background, so let's move on to the stuff that we actually get to see him do. The first major fight that he participates in is against a team of Kakashi, Kurenai, and Asuma, and it gives us a surface-level glimpse into his arsenal and the skill that he possesses in various areas of combat. We learn that he's at least a little proficient with genjutsu, given how he completely resists the effects of the one that Kurenai tries to cast on him, and that he subsequently turns the tables on her and traps her in a genjutsu instead. We also get to see him use a couple different ninjutsu, including a water-style jutsu that never receives a name, and a variant of the shadow clone jutsu where the clone created by the user detonates on command. The most iconic scene from the fight, of course, is the debut of Tsukuyomi, a genjutsu so powerful
that had me in awe.
The fact that
I was a kid when I watched that. It was so well done. So well done.
Strongest genjutsu ever after the series conclusion. Now, all that said, the fight's pretty short, and it's hard to infer from it what Itachi's full power is. But considering his opponents, his performance, and the apparent lack of effort on his part make it very clear that he's far beyond Jonin level. Itachi's next fight isn't really important at all. It's just him beating the shit out of Sasuke, but we do get our first glimpse at Amaterasu here. Unfortunately, we don't learn anything about how it works, but we can see that it's enough to impress Jiraiya and that it eats through the insides of the toad that he summons. Something that gets brought up frequently is that Jiraiya allegedly forced both Itachi and Kisame to retreat here, but after taking one look at this manga page, it becomes clear that they didn't really have to go anywhere. Kisame is pretty confused as to why Itachi chose to leave, and furthermore, it's very likely that he just didn't want to engage Jiraiya because he was working undercover for the Leaf Village. The idea that base Jiraiya is too strong for both Itachi and Kisame to handle is a bit ridiculous too, especially considering some of the stuff we see them do later in Shippuden. Speaking of Shippuden,
alright, so there's just some things I want to say about that. There's actually people that think Jiraiya could beat Itachi, and some that even think he could beat Itachi and Kisame. Now that's incorrect. Because one, Itachi, we all know now, was undercover. Two, he didn't want to engage and use his chakra. Three, he didn't want to hurt Sasuke. Like that Sasuke, he cared about Sasuke the whole time, as we all know now. You really think someone that struggled against Orochimaru, right, who had no arms, well, granted, he was drugged up. I'm talking about the legendary Sannin battle in Part 1 Naruto, when Tsunade got clapped by Kabuto with her fear of blood, and Jiraiya was sparring Orochimaru, who were both were handicapped, by the way. One had no arms, the other was drugged. Now, I think it's safe to say Orochimaru was more disabled than Jiraiya. So to me, that implies Orochimaru is stronger than Jiraiya. Now, Itachi clapped Orochimaru, who had the element of surprise in that scene. If you see he's right behind him, that didn't mean shit. He got genjutsu like that when he tried to take Itachi's body. You really think Jiraiya would do any better? Come on. There's people that actually tell me that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Itachi is superior to Jiraiya. He doesn't even need Kisame. He could let Kisame sit down while he whips his ass. That's reality. So I think he would beat Jiraiya pretty handedly. He's not fodder to Itachi. I'm not saying Jiraiya's fodder. He's very strong. He's a Sannin. But he's not beating Itachi. In an infinite domain of endless possibilities, in most cases, Itachi wins. In most cases, he wins. Now you could probably paint a scenario where Itachi loses. And there's endless possibilities. Let's say Jiraiya gets in Sage mode. He catches Itachi in that audio jutsu that Ma and Pa can do. That is possible. But then again, we've seen Itachi do hand-to-hand combat with KCM1 Naruto. With KCM Naruto being relative to the speed of the fourth rate Kage. Now, I think it's kind of a stretch to say an imperfect sage like Jiraiya is relative in speed to the fourth rate Kage. So with all that combined, hence Itachi's faster than Jiraiya as well. So I think he's just superior to Jiraiya in many, many ways. Not in all ways, because Jiraiya is dangerous as well. He'd be dangerous. He's not going to do what he did against Kakashi. Itachi's not going to do what he did against Kakashi against Jiraiya. He's not going to stand there and this guy's nothing to me, and clap all the joke, the way he clapped Kurenai and Asuma and Kakashi. He's not going to do that. He's going to try, because Jiraiya is no joke. So I'm not saying he's fodder. So don't go in the comments saying, "Oh, you're saying he's trash." No, he's not trash. I like Jiraiya, but Itachi claps. But so far, Itachi, what really stands out to me is, yeah, he's strong, obviously, but I think Itachi's always been an old soul, I'd like to say. I think part of why he was so vastly superior to all kids his age was his mind. Yeah, he was immensely talented as well, but I think a lot of it has to do with up here. He just had an understanding beyond any kid, really, besides Minato and Shikamaru and people like that. He has a vast understanding of the shinobi world, and he's clearly a quick learner, an extremely quick learner, and obviously he's vastly talented. Physically talented, obviously. I mean, he was resisting Obito's genjutsu at 7, 8 years old, whatever age he was. That's quite ridiculous. He's quite the shinobi. He's definitely an upper tier shinobi. Obviously, I'm not saying he's beating Madara. None of that. But I truly think Itachi deserves the title of God of Genjutsu. I just think the way he uses it within the manga, within the anime, it's some of the best ways I've ever seen. The way he uses the Genjutsus, the subtleties, the deception. It's very well done, and I think he's the best at it. And no, once again, that doesn't mean I think he beats Kaguya, Madara, Six Path, Naruto. No, he doesn't. But I'm just saying he's amazing at utilizing his Genjutsu and has very vast understanding of how to do so. But let's continue.
After this fight, we don't get to see Itachi in action until its first arc. To hold Team Kakashi at bay while the Akatsuki seals Shukaku inside of the Ghetto statue, Itachi challenges the members of Team 7 with a clone containing 30% of his chakra. Even though the clone is obviously substantially weaker than Itachi, it takes the combined forces of Naruto and Kakashi to land a clean hit on it. More importantly though, during this fight we learn that Itachi can trap people in Genjutsu simply with a point of his finger. He doesn't
that's
need
crazy.
to establish eye contact.
Crazy.
The last fight Itachi partakes in before his death is against Sasuke, and this is one of the most popular fights in the series. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen it a bunch of times, so I don't think I need to spend too much time going over it. But what's noteworthy about this fight is, as many of you know, Itachi was basically blind and was also near death due to his sickness, and according to Obito, he still could have easily killed Sasuke had he been trying his hardest. This is the same Sasuke who defeated Deidara without much trouble, at least not much trouble if we're not counting his suicide bomb at the end. So considering the gigantic strength disparity between Itachi and Deidara that this indicates, it means that he's obviously way beyond Kage level and paints him as one of the strongest members of the Akatsuki. During this fight, we also get to see him use the Susanoo for the first time, and we learn that his Susanoo possesses the Yata Mirror, which can reflect all forms of physical attacks, and the Totsuka Blade, which can indefinitely seal anything it pierces. Now, when Itachi is revived by Kabuto during the 4th Shinobi World War, that's when we actually get to see him put in some effort. It's brief because it only happens during the fight against Naruto and B, and then subsequently during the fight against Nagato, but it's still really cool that we get to see him cut loose for once. He doesn't do too much in this fight, or these fights. I'm not really sure if this counts as 1 or 2 since he changes teams. But anyway, what he does do is pretty major. At the beginning of the fight, he swaps hands with Kyuubi Cloak Naruto, which is a really big deal because right before this fight, we find out that this Naruto is faster than the Raikage. Exactly. It's possible that Naruto wasn't moving at full speed when this happened. In fact, it's very likely. But keeping up at all with someone who was at that point one of the fastest characters in the series is definitely worthy of praise. Later in the fight, when he switches sides and helps Naruto and B fight against Nagato, he basically carries both of them. The two are seconds away from death when Itachi swoops in and saves them with his Susanoo, and he's the one who ends up dealing the finishing blow to Nagato by sealing him with the Totsuka Blade. Itachi's last fight is against Kabuto with Sasuke at his side, but it's difficult to gauge his strength from this because both he and Kabuto were holding back. Kabuto had to hold back because he didn't want to kill Sasuke, and Itachi had to hold back because he couldn't afford to kill or seal Kabuto, as that would leave no one to release the Edo Tensei. To be fair, of course, there's not much that Itachi could have done to beat Kabuto, but a single poke from the Totsuka Blade would have gotten him the win. And whether or not he actually could have touched Kabuto with the Totsuka Blade is arguable, but like I said, given the circumstances, it's difficult to tell. Still, even though both he and Kabuto were holding back, he managed to catch Kabuto with Izanami, allowing him to release the Edo Tensei and nearly end the war. So now that everything's on the table, it's time to answer the question posed in the title of the video. How strong do I think Itachi is?
Alright.
To be blunt, I think he's one of the strongest characters in the series, but that's not super precise, so let me be more clear. Itachi is one of the most skilled users of both ninjutsu and genjutsu, and he has incredible skill with taijutsu as seen in his brief clash with Kyuubi Naruto. His arsenal is made up of some of the most overpowered broken shit in the Naruto-verse, including exploding shadow clones, genjutsu that can be cast with the point of a finger, Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, the strongest fire-style jutsu of all time, and a Susanoo that wields an indestructible shield and a sword that can seal anything it touches.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
He has so many methods of dealing with potential threats that it's really unlikely that he'll ever find himself in a situation he can't get himself out of. But he's the definition of a glass cannon. His main weakness is his complete lack of stamina.
Correct.
So while he's easily able to deal with most of the opponents,
especially when he got sick, right?
If he's unable to do it quickly, he runs the risk of draining himself of chakra and tiring himself out. It's not a huge weakness though, since he's shown he's more than capable of taking opponents out quickly. And if we're talking about Edo Tensei Itachi, it's not even present in the first place. If I had to explain how strong I think he is by comparing him to other characters, I'd say he's the third strongest member in the Akatsuki, and if he were to become Hokage, I think he'd be the fourth most powerful behind Naruto, of course, Hashirama, and Minato. I think he's weaker than Obito just because Kamui's broken, and he's definitely weaker than Nagato, and I mean, you could maybe argue that he might be able to beat the Six Paths of Pain in his prime. In my personal opinion, I think that the Six Paths would overwhelm him because someone with low stamina like Itachi just isn't built to take someone like that on. But that's
That's true.
That's a good
case. I mean, a good point.
I don't feel like going super into detail about the topic, but I did want to put my position out there. I definitely don't think he's anywhere close to as strong as Madara.
I agree with that. He doesn't. He's not. He's not.
The Totsuka Blade Yata Mirror combination is very powerful, but Madara is a completely different beast, and maybe I'll make a video covering him at some point in the future. Speaking of that, if you guys want me to make this into a more recurring series where I discuss the strength of other characters, let me know in the comments, because I had a lot of fun making this video as well as the others.
Very well done. Very well done,
Swag. See a video on, and if I see enough support for any given character, I'll definitely make sure to cover them. Anyway, thanks as always for watching the video all the way to the end. If you're new here, consider subscribing to get updates when I post new videos. Make sure you have a great rest of the day.
All right.
Until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out.
Peace out, Swag. All right, there you guys have that. Now, I definitely gotta give my 2 cents on here. I disagree with some of the things Swag said. At the end here. Excuse me. He said that Itachi was the 3rd strongest in the Akatsuki. Here's the thing with that. We don't really get to see what he's capable of in his prime. All right. At least to my understanding. We don't really get to see what he's capable of in his prime. Like prime, right? Like before he got very sick. I mean, before he got very, very sick. I just feel he beats Nagato. And I think it's close. Those two are razor close in my opinion. As far as, capabilities. It's very close. You could probably swap both characters as far as who's the 2nd strongest Akatsuki member. I lean towards Itachi. I think in his prime, he'd catch Nagato. One, I think he's intellectually superior to Nagato. Not vastly superior. It's not like Nagato's stupid. Obviously, he's not. But him being by himself without the 6 paths of pain, it's possible that he could be caught in Genjutsu. And I tend to think Nagato's not the best at taijutsu. I mean, I don't think that's his thing, and I think he'd lose in an exchange with Itachi. I don't know. I'm using headcanon. It's not concrete. I'm not saying this is absolute. This is just my opinion. Me, using intuition. Now Nagato is very powerful as well, but he's there. I basically agree with Swag. He's around that area, 2nd, 3rd strongest Akatsuki member. To my opinion, he's the 2nd strongest. Him and Nagato are basically neck and neck. It's like 5 out of 10, high difficulty for both characters. So yeah, that's where Itachi's at. He's my favorite character. So yeah, to me specifically, he's in the era of Naruto, he's one of the very strongest shinobi on the planet. Of all the alive shinobi, right? So like the Akatsuki members, the Kages, he's definitely up there, and he probably beats any Kage one-on-one. I think we can agree with that. I mean, alive. So I mean, Onoki, Tsunade, Mei, the Reikage, and the Mizukage. He beats any one of them one-on-one for sure. So yeah, he's definitely Kage level, beyond Kage level. At least the Kages that are currently alive during his lifetime. Besides Hiruzen, I think Hiruzen's old actually, so maybe he beats him. I don't know. That's a tough one. But yeah, guys, this was a great video. Like I said, Itachi's my very favorite character, so this was very, very cool to watch. And let me know what your opinion is on Itachi as a character and as far as power scaling. What do you think? What do you think about where he scales? Here's one thing I could say for sure, though. So I'm just reiterating so people don't think I think this. He does not beat Madara. He does not beat Kaguya. He does not beat 6 Paths Sasuke or Naruto. He doesn't beat 8th Gates Guy. He doesn't beat DMS Kakashi. Well, yeah, he doesn't beat him. Probably not. I don't know. Yeah, probably not. No. He doesn't beat like the strong god, the god tier shinobi. He doesn't beat them. Minato, he doesn't beat Minato. He doesn't beat Hashirama. He probably beats Tobirama. Prime Hiruzen probably beats him. It's very unknown what he's capable of. But once again, Prime Itachi, it's very unknown what he was capable of also. So how good was he with his Susanoo in his prime, right? How potent was it? How potent was his ninjutsu in his prime? When he was at his peak, we don't know. I mean, at least I don't. If someone knows, enlighten me. But yeah, this was a great video. I can talk about Itachi all day long, honestly. He's my very favorite character. And another reason why he's my favorite character, and this is not based on power, is just he was so well written. He's just a stand-up guy. You know, obviously he was undercover this whole time, but he made the ultimate sacrifice. You know, he made the ultimate sacrifice, sacrifice that few to none ever made in the Naruto verse. I mean, this guy killed his whole clan because he was ordered to, for the greater good. You know, now could he have gone about it another way? That's debatable. I'm sure there's people out there that said he shouldn't have killed his clan. But then again, if he hadn't, there would have been a war, and there would have been death on both sides. You know, including maybe Sasuke. He wanted to protect Sasuke. He did that. And he's not perfect. Itachi's not perfect, which makes him human. He's not perfect. He's human. You know, obviously, what his actions led to Sasuke's actions, right? Later in the beginning of Naruto, in the beginning of Shippuden, he betrayed the leaf. He left the leaf as a rogue ninja because of Itachi's doings, being under the impression that Itachi was a traitor. And then later learning that he wasn't, and still betraying the leaf, right? Even more so, because he wants to destroy the leaf to avenge Itachi. So at the end of the day, you know, deception did not go in his favor in that particular scenario. And all these, you know what's ironic? The fact that he's a genjutsu god, right? In my opinion, as far as ninjutsu. But then when he tries to deceive Sasuke, with that deception being who he really is, right? Who he really is a good shinobi, a good-hearted man, trying to be an evil maniac who slaughters his clan. That's who he is in Itachi's eyes, in Sasuke's eyes, and that's how he deceives Sasuke. That deception didn't work, right? That didn't work. He failed to deceive Sasuke and achieve the goal that he wanted. So he deceived Sasuke, but he didn't achieve the goal that he wanted. The goal that he wanted was for Sasuke to kill him and come back to the leaf as a hero. That's probably what, you know, that's probably the sort of goal he wanted to achieve with his deception. But it didn't work. So to me, that's ironic. It's symbolic. It just shows no one's perfect, not even someone as great as Itachi. But yeah, I can talk about Itachi forever. Sorry for the rant. But yeah, guys, this was a great video. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know in the comments. I love you all, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's Joe the Guy signing out. Peace.